Hello and welcome to Dance of Democracy Season 24. In today's episode, we'll be looking at whether political parties walk the talk when it comes to giving representation to women. Before we do that, let's talk about India's loser number one.
This man holds a record that many would not flaunt. K. Padmarajan has made his defeats his USP. The 65-year-old man has contested in 238 elections and has earned a spot in the Limca Book of Records as India's most unsuccessful candidate. This year too, he's gearing up again, rooting for failure because that's where he succeeds.
In India today, there are many seats where women decide who wins. But when it comes to leadership roles, do political parties give women enough seats?
A better democracy is a democracy where women do not only have the right to vote and to elect, but to be elected.
क्या भारत की स्त्रियों के साथ बर्ताव उचित है?
You can tell the condition of the nation by looking at the status of the women in the state, sir.
If that's a measure to look at India today, what do the numbers in electoral politics tell us about India? From 1962 to 2019, the share of women voters went up from 42% to 48.2%, which is roughly equal to the share of women in the population. But look at the share of women candidates. That's less than 10% in the same period, increasing from 3.2% in 1962 to 9% in 2019, making up just 14% of elected members of parliament in 2019, up from 6.3% in 1962. The Women's Reservation Bill that was passed in a special parliament session in 2023 has no deadline for implementation. It will depend on two factors: a delimitation exercise and the census. But left to themselves, would political parties actually deliver on their promise? We need to look no further than their own ticket distribution numbers. Over 7 elections between 1996 and 2019, not one of the top national parties gave more than 10% tickets to women, with just a few exceptions in some elections. The CPM has the highest percentage of women candidates at 14.5%, which is up from 6.7%. The Congress tally has gone up marginally from 9.3% to 12.8%. The BJP with 12.8% is in the same range as the Congress, but has improved from 5.7% in 1996. BSP, headed by a woman, fares the poorest on this scale with a score of just 6.3% in 2019. Women's representation in legislation has a long way to go, but they are deciding the fate of candidates in many states. In these 11 states and union territories, women voters outnumber male voters. Globally speaking, a higher spot on the Human Development Index has generally matched with better women's representation in the legislature too. Take the example of nations like New Zealand or Spain, France, Germany, Italy, where women make up more than 30% of members of parliament in the lower house. Even amongst some of our neighbours, India lags behind. Nepal has more than 33% women lawmakers. Bangladesh and Pakistan have more than 20%, while India is still at 14%. June 4 will tell us how fast Indian Parliament has moved towards gender equality.
Unlike many other countries, women in India could vote right from the first election. Even then, lakhs of them missed out on the opportunity due to a very strange reason. Let Mirambika explain.
Did you know that in India's first election, the names of 40 lakh women were missing from the electoral rolls? In Bihar, UP, Rajasthan and MP, women were enrolled as someone's wife, daughter or mother. Even when the Election Commission gave more time to get their names updated, many women didn't have the permission to do so. That's why 28 lakh women couldn't vote in India's first election.
Reporters always have the best election stories. One such story was told to Mahua Chatterjee by Pranab Mukherjee. This story is about India's first election and how a tiebreaker was solved.
But he was a good storyteller. So he said there are these two guys who had tied. Finally, on the day of the counting, there were two candidates who had tied. They had exact number of votes. In fact, Pranab Babu had told us about the number of votes also. Again, I forget that bit. But, so if you're tied, then you go for a recount. So the recounting happened, and they found that they had got equal number of votes. There was this one of these guys, what he quickly did before anybody else could react, they were ballot paper voting. So he just picked up one ballot from from his rivals and ate it up. He put it in his mouth and he ate it up, and therefore he won that election. I haven't heard a funnier story so far.
Let me leave you with a fun quiz. In 1951, when India's first elections were held, there were more than 10 states that don't exist anymore. Can you name at least 3?
A little hint for the quiz, some of those were presidencies. Make sure to write your answers in the comment section.
The election story of India is incomplete without the Times of India.
Every morning, our 51 editions
of the paper provide you with the most extensive coverage of these elections.
they also discover in India that's unseen, unknown.